Okay, so I got cut off there. Here is how I would continue the cleanup process. I probably want to make all the text the right font and size. So Times New Roman, size 12. And as you can see, I'm starting to have to use tab and other things in order to show that something is a subtopic of the other heading. So this is a little just tip. If you ever want to tab over an entire paragraph, you just highlight it and then press tab. Because if you try just tabbing the top, then the second and third lines won't go as well. So one of those things you learn over the years. Okay, so tab. Now I have a rough plan for my hook and my thesis, and that's going to make it so much easier to actually write my paper. Okay, so then I move into the next section, and again I have to delete the random line that appeared. And now we have our section about the name. So that's the heading, and then in order to create the subsection, you can have Microsoft Word do its automated things. I find it sometimes is not consistent, so I like to put in my own and then just override the auto formatting. So the first thing here is that the toilet used to be called a guarderobe, and then here where it says the name of the source, the reason that it has 3 hyphens is because it was the same as the one above it. So I'll have to go back to my Noodle Tools account to see what that source actually was. And it was Jimmy Stamp. Usually you won't have to do that where you have to go back, but if you ever run up against that, that's what you'll do. So I'll just put in stamp right after the direct quote so that I know where it's from. And I can delete everything else. Obviously, this is all unnecessary, so there's a lot of deleting in this stage. And as you can see, the examples I've given are quotes, but remember that you don't need to have many quotes. Paraphrase is actually a really important tool in research papers. Then we have our section on early toilet-like things. So again, the auto formatting is not your friend all the time. And you can decide, as long as you're consistent, I'm okay with any type of numbering system. So just make sure that, if you do Roman numerals, you do it all the way through for all the main headings. And then you do letters for the ones underneath if you choose to do more. Sometimes when you're creating your outline, you realize there are gaps in your research. So for here, I might put a subpoint that says, find more information about the history of the name toilet. And then I might even highlight that for myself so that I remember to do it. Okay, so you can see how each time I get to a new note card material, I need to do some cleaning up in order for it to work, and a lot of deleting too. The last step that you'll need to do once you do this for all of your sources I think you guys get the idea. There is one quick thing. So it says direct quote here, so you know it's a direct quote, but once you delete that little heading, you might forget that this is not your words. So I always put in the quotation marks to remind myself, okay, this is somebody else's words. I can't just put it in as my own words. But down here I have paraphrase, so I might actually move the paraphrase up to the top because remember that with research papers, that's going to be more useful. Okay, easily made mistake is not putting a citation for paraphrased info, but that is actually really important because it's still a fact that you got from a certain source. And this was also from Stamp. When you get to the drafting stage, we'll be talking about the fact that you can't just cite an entire paragraph using one citation, but for the purpose of the outline, because each section of the outline is sort of its own little paragraph and its own little section, you can do that. So the last step of making sure your Desert Isle outline is ready is making sure that you have a works cited page. So you remember how to do that. You just go back to your Noodle Tools account, go to the sources page, and then go to print export to Word, and then what you'd probably want to make sure is that you did actually use all these sources, because sometimes we find a source and we think we're going to use it, but we don't end up actually citing it anywhere. And if that's the case, then you can delete it from your works cited page. But take this, copy, and then you'll attach it to the end of your outline. So just pretend I had cleaned up an entire outline and I'm done with it. And that's where my works cited page goes. A quick check you can do that I always recommend is print it out, and then each time you see an in-text citation, check it off on your works cited page. So Sudath, I would check it off here, and that tells me, yes, I did cite it. This helps you avoid including sources that you never actually used. The final reminder that students always get confused by is if something is not a last name, you still, the part you put in parentheses is going to be the first word or a couple words that appear. So like, for example, the creators of this particular article, it wasn't a name, it was just an organization called Old House Online. So you could even put just Old House in parentheses. In some works cited pages, the first thing that appears is something in quotation marks, and if that's the case, like if this had been the beginning of this citation, I would have in quotations 5 ways. So the idea is that for anyone looking at your outline or your paper, they can just see the citation, flip to the back page, which is your works cited page, and make sure that they understand who Lewis is and what this article is. So it's supposed to be like a quick pointer for your readers. Don't forget that you're printing these out, and make sure that your research question is either handwritten across the top or typed across the top in big bold letters, and that'll help me and also your peer reviewers with seeing if you are staying on topic. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.